Chapter 2: Invasion of Privacy. Being a teacher in the age of social media has both its advantages and disadvantages. One advantage is how it helps me to keep my lessons fresh, fun, and engaging. I'm also able to connect with my students, make my content funny and relatable, and teach them in a way so that they enjoy learning. Unfortunately, my students were always snooping around for information about me or their other teachers on the internet. Since I don't post anything that I don't want people to know, I usually tend to leave my accounts public, and they always found me. This sometimes led to me feeling like my privacy had been invaded, especially when an extremely personal question came up about my family or my friends. I realized I needed a place for them to visit me outside of school that didn't feel so personal and invasive. That's how my Instagram and TikTok pages were born. It fed their desire to connect with me while giving me some peace of mind to set a boundary between my life as a teacher and my life as a person. However, invasion of my personal privacy wasn't the disadvantage I was getting at. I may not have liked being asked questions that let me know my sixth grade students were spending way too much time digging through my personal business, but it wasn't life shattering. It was what I learned my students had done to each other that made my stomach turn. They had created something called a burn page, and it's one of the most hurtful things I've ever seen children do on the internet. It broke my heart to see how someone would take an innocent picture of one child, write cruel words all over it, edit it, and post it so that others could add fuel to the fire. It was one of the worst forms of bullying I had ever seen. Students were coming to me almost daily to tell me who had been posted and what was said. I'm not an administrator, but I care about my students and what affected them. I would send emails and screenshots to the school administration, but to be honest, there wasn't a lot that could be done since social media is outside of the school's control. It's sickening, but it's not new. When I was a student, kids vented all the time about who they didn't like and why. We had burn books, but it was on notebook paper, and once the paper was destroyed, there was really no way to get it back. It was awful then, but it's significantly worse now. On social media, anyone and everyone can see what's posted, and with screenshots and screen recording, deleting content will never be enough. Once something is on the internet, it's pretty much there forever. Like I mentioned earlier, people will do just about anything for clout. The worst stories I've heard about were those of young students, both male and female, who foolishly sent an inappropriate picture to another student. Before they knew it, the picture was all over social media. As school staff, we can suspend, we can reprimand, and we can notify parents, but unfortunately, we can't ensure that every trace of the photo has been erased. It's impossible. This led me to feel like I had to do something. I watched my students cry, break down, fight, get suspended, voluntarily stop coming to school, and in the worst cases, admit to considering self-harm. I've even sat on the phone with parents as they cried and said they didn't know what to do. As a mother myself, I felt their pain. What could anyone do? One of the most dangerous tools of our generation had been given to children whose brains had not been fully developed and who didn't always make the best choices. No matter how often parents took away phones or iPads, kids still had to have access to the internet at some point throughout their day, and just about every device had a camera on it. It's like a wildfire that no one knows how to extinguish. You can beat the flames in one area and truly believe you're making progress, but as you look up, you find that 3 more sections are ablaze and it's spreading faster than you can control. I couldn't just stand back and continue to watch the burn pages rampage through my students' lives and not try to solve the problem. Even if it meant throwing a few drops of water into the ocean, I needed to plant some seeds of wisdom where I could and pray that they somehow took root. I started a girls' club. The boys, of course, had a fit and accused me of showing favoritism. But I'm a wife and a mom of boys too. I'm far from biased. However, I have only so many hours to give, and I can only speak on what I know. I know what it's like to be bullied and to be a bully, but only from a girl's perspective. My original goal was to empower my students with the tools that they lacked to make better choices in who they hung out with and what they did with their free time and how they handled negative situations. However, what I discovered was that the need was greater than I anticipated. I started out by giving them surveys to find out what obstacles they face on a daily basis and what emotions they may be struggling with. The results surprised me. The majority of the students who participated in the survey admitted that they struggled with low self-esteem and confidence, negative feelings towards school, and unhealthy peer interactions. It didn't matter if the student was a straight A honor student or a seemingly popular student. There were issues related to the social experience of school that negatively impacted them mentally and emotionally every day. Post-pandemic, more and more adolescents are reporting feeling depressed and anxious and finding it difficult to connect with peers. My school is full of clubs and after-school athletic programs, but we didn't have a mentorship program. During my 7 years as a teacher, I've been a cheer and dance coach and an advisor for student council, but I've never led a mentorship program. Outside of school, I was a camp counselor and a children's director at my church. And even though I could apply all of those experiences to make a program fun and exciting, I needed more information to make it meaningful. I needed to know everything about what my students were battling, and I needed to know it from them. I started meeting with students during lunch with permission from their parents to ask them every question I could think of to give me a place to start with my research. Every answer always led to another question. I was fully engrossed to listening to their stories because the life of a middle schooler in 2022 is nothing like what I remembered. I struggled to fit in when I was in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but not to the extent that kids do today. The pressure is much greater. There aren't any photos of me floating around with old beat up tennis shoes, crazy hair, or uniform pants above my ankles because I had hit a growth spurt. There's no record of the mean names my classmates taunted me with for years. If there was a video of my classmates bullying me and being played repeatedly everywhere I went, I wouldn't want to come to school either. Furthermore, I grew up on the south side of Chicago and most definitely had my share of schoolyard scuffles. I would be mortified if there was any form of footage from those ungodly fights. Their woes seem monumental. I know I was not created to be a child in this decade for a reason, but I had to help. I needed my students to know that their lives were bigger than their current situations. Everything we feel or even any hardship we may be going through right now is only temporary. You aren't on this earth to be popular or well liked by everyone around you. Everyone won't like you and you can't make them. You won't like everyone you meet, but you should still treat them with respect and kindness, even if you don't feel like they deserve it. What you give is what you'll get back in return. If you give out love, patience, and kindness, that's what you'll receive back. And you'll feel much more joy and fulfillment if you focus on the good things in yourself and others and in your life more than you focus on the bad. You have to surround yourself with positive things and people. That may require you to change things about yourself that aren't healthy or let go of some people or habits that you've held on to for years. In chapter 1, I gave you 2 options. The first option represented popularity. 1 million followers sounds nice and may even seem like it could lead to a life of fame and fortune, but it's based on popularity. Popularity has little to do with you and everything to do with what others think about you. That's a scary and dangerous place to be, and it's completely out of your control. In fact, you'll be the one being controlled because once you have it, you have to keep it. You will need to say and do whatever is trendy, even if it goes against your authentic beliefs, because the wrong words or actions can get you canceled. The second option represents your purpose. Deep down inside, we have an idea of what we would really like to spend all of our time doing, a path or a career that inspires us or draws us in to know and want to know more. There's a calling on our lives that won't leave us alone, and something in us yearns to fulfill that purpose. Your purpose is connected to your why you get up, why you go to school, why you keep pushing forward. Your why shouldn't be controlled by anyone's opinion. Your why should always be greater than what other people think about you. Your why will be your why, no matter what challenges or obstacles come your way. No one can take your why away from you. Your why is your story, your gifts, your talents, your dreams, your fears, your trials, and your tribulations. Your why is directly tied to your purpose, and your why is what will help you get there. You may not know what your purpose is yet, but understanding your why will get you closer to understanding what it is. The decision to choose your purpose, your calling, and your impact on the world over choosing to be popular is like choosing to be heard over being seen. Most of us can remember that someone said what someone said better than we can remember the person who. Making the decision to choose your purpose, your calling, and your impact on the world over choosing to be popular is like choosing to be heard over being seen. Most of us can remember something that someone said better than we can remember what the person who said it looked like. Popularity, much like physical appearance, will fade over time, but our words can be heard and repeated for years and years, even after we're no longer living. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous "I Have a Dream" speech still has a powerful impact wherever someone hears it today, nearly 60 years after his death. His voice is still heard. The purpose still makes an impact. But the most popular actors and actresses of that same time period are nowhere near as well known or as important as Dr. King's speech. My goal is to get you to think about what you want people to remember about you and live for that more than you live for acceptance and approval. Choose your purpose over popularity.